From the vast savannas of Africa to the lush mountainous jungles of Papua, more than 10,000 kilometers separate these two distant lands. One lies on the western flank of the Indian Ocean, the other deep in the Pacific, nestled just north of Australia. And yet, for all that distance, a curious similarity catches the eye. The people of Papua, both in West Papua and Papua New Guinea, share striking physical features with many communities across sub-Saharan Africa. Dark skin, tightly coiled hair, broad facial structures. How can two groups, living worlds apart, look so much alike? Is it mere coincidence, or does this echo a far older story buried deep in the roots of human history? The island of New Guinea covers an area of 785,000 square kilometers and is home to roughly 12 million people, 8 million in Papua New Guinea and 4 million in the Indonesian western half. The highest population densities are found in the intermountain valleys, situated between 1,400 and 1,850 meters above sea level. The indigenous peoples of both Papua New Guinea and Western New Guinea, commonly referred to as Papuans, are classified as Melanesians. Genetic evidence shows that the population of New Guinea and its surrounding islands comes from two major historical migrations: an earlier wave from the Malay archipelago, possibly 50,000 years ago, when New Guinea and Australia were part of a single landmass known as Sahul, and a later wave of Austronesian people who arrived about 3,500 years ago. These Austronesians introduced their languages, domesticated pigs, and left a lasting but limited genetic imprint on many of the island's coastal populations. Papuans are among the oldest populations outside Africa to have maintained continuous settlement in one region. They exhibit some of the highest levels of linguistic and genetic diversity in the world. In terms of language, Papuans speak a wide range of non-Austronesian languages unique to New Guinea and its surrounding islands, as well as Austronesian languages along certain coastal regions. In more recent times, several Creoles have also emerged, including Tok Pisin, Hiri Motu, Unserdeutsch, and Papuan Malay. According to the 14th edition of Ethnologue, Papua New Guinea alone has 826 languages, while Western New Guinea has 257. Accounting for an overlap of 12 languages, the total stands at 1,083. If we go by the Glottolog estimate of 928 languages for Papua New Guinea, the number is even higher. That makes up roughly 15% of the world's estimated 7,700 languages. Modern humans, Homo sapiens, originated in Africa around 200,000 years ago. Some 50,000 to 70,000 years ago, a group of these early humans began migrating out of Africa, eventually spreading across much of the globe. At the time of their arrival in New Guinea, about 50,000 years ago or earlier, New Guinea, Australia, and Tasmania were still part of the single Sahul continent. That landmass remained intact until the Holocene sea level rise around 9,000 years ago submerged the Torres Strait. Today, the Pleistocene Sahul is divided into Northern Sahul, New Guinea and near Oceania, and Southern Sahul, Australia. New Guinea comprises about one-third of Sahul and includes its highest mountain peaks, some rising to 4,900 meters above sea level. Reaching Sahul was no small feat. It required early humans to cross substantial bodies of water, with at least one crossing spanning over 100 kilometers. That suggests they had already developed some form of watercraft, evidence that they possessed a relatively advanced understanding of seafaring, even if their boats were rudimentary by modern standards. While some island hopping might have been accidental, many crossings were deliberate, timed to improve the odds of success in reaching new lands. To reach Sahul, these pioneers had to traverse water gaps up to 90 kilometers across between the Walaisan Islands, using what may have been either southern or northern routes via Timor and/or Sulawesi. Some researchers estimate that it took between 1,300 and 1,550 individuals to populate Sahul, implying a large planned migration rather than a random drift. The eastern part of New Guinea was reached by 49,000 years ago, and people had crossed to New Ireland by 45,000 years ago, which involved a 50-kilometer sea journey. By 33,000 years ago, humans had reached the North Solomons, requiring open sea crossings of up to 180 kilometers. These were not easy voyages, but Even small navigational advances and well-timed departures increase their chances of success. Genomic evidence reveals that indigenous Australians and Papuans split from Eurasians between 51,000 and 72,000 years ago. Interestingly, Papuans and Aboriginal Australians diverged from each other around 10,000 to 32,000 years ago, even before Sahul was fully separated by the sea about 10,000 years ago. This early split might be linked to the flooding of the Carpentaria Basin, which made habitation difficult and led to isolation. A further division occurred between lowland and highland Papuan populations during the post-glacial warming period 10,000 to 20,000 years ago, especially as agriculture began to spread in the highlands around 9,000 years ago. Today, there is strong genetic differentiation among Papuan groups. Nearly 50,000 years of isolation within Sahul has led to independent patterns of genetic and cultural evolution. Both New Guineans and Aboriginal Australians descend from some of the earliest modern humans to leave Africa. Within New Guinea, many groups lived in mountainous or otherwise remote environments, intensifying their isolation and resulting in even more genetic divergence over time. This long-standing isolation is one reason why Papua New Guinea is among the most culturally and linguistically diverse places on Earth. Its geography, soaring mountains, thick forests, and winding rivers, naturally separates communities from one another. In the highlands, small groups settled in fertile valleys and developed their own languages, customs, and social structures. Meanwhile, lowland populations, often spread out across the coast or swampy areas, evolved along very different paths. One of the most remarkable findings in Papuan genetics is their high proportion of Denisovan DNA. The Denisovans were an extinct species of archaic humans, and Papuans, along with some other Melanesian populations, carry a significant amount of their DNA. This interbreeding most likely occurred in Asia before the ancestors of Papuans reached Sahul, adding further complexity to their genetic heritage. Studies show that up to 5% of Papuan DNA comes from Denisovans. This genetic contribution appears to have had important effects, particularly on the immune system. Many Denisovan variants are found near genes involved in immune responses. These adaptations may have helped different groups adjust to varying environments. Lowland Papuans may have inherited genes boosting immune cell counts, while highland groups might carry variants that improve red blood cell production, aiding altitude adaptation. Research even indicates that Papuans may have inherited DNA from not just one, but two distinct Denisovan lineages. The adaptability of Papuan populations is evident in their ability to thrive in a wide range of environments, from lowland swamps to mountainous terrain. They developed technologies and cultural systems tailored to these settings. For example, highland Papuans began practicing agriculture independently around 7000 BC, making New Guinea one of the few places on Earth where farming emerged without external influence. In the Cook Swamp area, they domesticated taro, yams, bananas, breadfruit, sago, various greens, and sugarcane. Archaeological evidence even suggests a form of Neolithic gardening in Papua that arose around the same time agriculture developed in Mesopotamia and Egypt. Around 3,500 years ago, the Austronesian expansion began, a vast migration that originated from Taiwan and spread across much of the Pacific and Indian Oceans. When Austronesian sailors reached New Guinea's coasts, they encountered well-established Papuan communities with their own rich languages and cultures. What followed was a long history of interaction, trade, intermarriage, cultural exchange, and linguistic borrowing. This contact is evident in many ways. Linguistically, it led to the emergence of hybrid languages and borrowing of grammatical structures. For example, in regions such as Halmahera and the Alor-Pantar Islands, languages developed a blend of Papuan and Austronesian features. In eastern New Guinea, the Papuan tip languages adopted a subject-object-verb-word order, most likely influenced by non-Austronesian languages. Cultural exchange between Papuans and Austronesians also left its mark. Pottery styles and toolkits show shared techniques and aesthetics, pointing to mutual influence and perhaps even collaborative efforts. In places like Raja Ampat and the north coast of Papua, artifacts reflect a fusion of both cultural traditions. Genetic studies support these observations, showing two-way gene flow. Austronesian settlers introduced new lineages into coastal Papuan populations, but they also absorbed Papuan genes. The result is a genetic mosaic, particularly along the coastlines. The rise of Creole languages such as Papuan Malay illustrates this ongoing blend. Used as a common language in parts of Indonesian New Guinea, Papuan Malay incorporates elements from both Austronesian and Papuan linguistic traditions and serves as a bridge between different ethnic groups. Despite evolving separately for millennia, Papuans and sub-Saharan Africans often display remarkably similar physical traits: dark skin, broad noses, fuller lips, and tightly curled hair. These shared features have led to the mistaken belief that Papuans might be some lost branch of Africans. But the explanation lies not in shared ancestry, but in parallel or convergent evolution. Convergent evolution refers to unrelated groups developing similar traits because they live in similar environments. Both Papuans and sub-Saharan Africans inhabit tropical regions with intense sunlight. Over many generations, darker skin evolved as a protective adaptation against ultraviolet radiation. Melanin, the pigment that darkens skin, acts as a natural sunscreen, safeguarding folate levels vital for reproduction and shielding against UV-induced skin damage. Other traits follow the same logic. Curly hair helps ventilate the scalp, reducing the risk of overheating in hot, humid climates. Broad noses help moisten and cool inhaled air. These traits are not unique to Papuans or Africans. They're shared by various tropical populations worldwide, including some groups in South India, Melanesia, and the Andaman Islands, each shaped by similar environmental pressures. So, while Papuans and sub-Saharan Africans may resemble one another, they are not more closely related than they are to Europeans or East Asians. Their physical similarities are a striking example of how the human body can adapt in parallel ways to similar challenges, even in completely different parts of the world. This understanding not only enriches our grasp of human evolution, but also challenges the simplistic racial categories that still persist today.